right. Gosh, performance anxiety never ends. I've been nervous ever since I walked into this building. Thank you, Dean Crane. And thank you so much to the selection committee and the Sponsored Programs Foundation for recognizing my work. What interests me most is the relationship between technology and subjectivity. And I see my research as part of a broader effort in humanistic social sciences to study the interactions linking human mobilities, social differences, and the enduring effects of socioeconomic inequalities on the everyday lives of historically excluded groups around the world. My life experiences as a queer Tagalog Filipino immigrant to the US and its relation to the rapid developments of the internet and digital media technologies serve as a source of my scholarly and creative inquiries. I describe my broad interest as the study of mediated bodies in performance. And I translate these into multiple projects and different forms of knowledge that include one, an ethnographic study of queer Filipinx men and their mediated lives on and about mobile digital media, and two, my drag performance practice as Maria Arte Susha Purissima Tolentino, or Maarte for short. So in my multi-sided qualitative study, The Promise of Intimacy, and an ethnography that examines the lives of queer Filipinx men in Manila, the capital of the Philippines, and in Los Angeles, California, home of the largest population of Filipinos outside of the homeland, I focus on queer Filipino men who use geolocative socio-sexual apps. You might know them as dating apps, social media, and messaging platforms on their mobile devices to seek potential intimate partners. And I examine their practices and beliefs on and about mobile digital media. And I explain how these technologies shape people's understanding of time and space, emotional attachments, self-presentation, and social hierarchies based on race, class, sex, and gender. So my core interests can be encapsulated in a few basic questions, right? So how do our relationships with mobile technologies change how we understand ourselves and how we form social connections? How do people creatively represent themselves online despite prefigured design mechanisms? And third, what are the ways technology helps produce surges of affects during daily use? These questions elaborate on how space, time, and self-worth are co-constitutive in queer people's digital world-making. In answering these questions, I look into the intersectional lens of queer of color critique that highlights how race, class, gender, sexuality, and citizenship come together and shape relations of power, following threads from various ideas from women of color feminisms. Queer of color critique emphasizes how theory comes directly from the lives of minoritized groups of color around the world and how their everyday tactics and strategies of survival imagine solidarities, affiliations, and other worlds of being. I also draw from Global Asia scholarship, which highlights how the study of Asia and its diasporas form a variety of humanistic perspectives to expand analyses that recognize Asia's places in the development of global cultures and histories. Lastly, I take the feminist and queer science and technology studies that assert the importance of the situated and relational analysis among humans, machines, and its worlds. Now, I take all of these to think about my concept of socio-technical infrastructure as an analytical lens to study unequal arrangements and access to complex systems that determine qualities of social interaction and definitions of attractiveness among different groups of queer Filipino. These complex systems include transportation, technological hardware, data storage, along with social difference like class and gender as forms of power that inform different ideas of aesthetic beauty. I build on feminist science and technology scholarship on infrastructure that focus on these complex relational arrangements of objects, people, and ideas to tease out calculated moves and motivations between actors and networks. I also incorporate affective components or structures of feeling as essential of my thinking of socio-technical infrastructure. Through everyday interaction, language use, beliefs about digital media, and group affiliation among these queer Filipino men, I enumerate the multiple motivations toward pursuing the promise of intimate connection, where its interrelated social, organizational, and technical dimensions become more transparent for analysis. So my study is rooted in participation and observation on several of these platforms, both in Manila and in Los Angeles. And I juxtapose Manila and Los Angeles as two cities that seem to occupy opposites in the global landscape of digital economies. Los Angeles, often seen as an extension of Silicon Valley with its sites of technological and creative digital production, while Manila occupies the back-end surface industries that keep our interconnected digital world running. Digital platforms serve as avenues for the exchange of knowledge, serving the multiple possibilities and ways of being a queer Filipinx in the homeland and in the diaspora. I crafted digital methods of recruitment and remote interview strategies that worked with the ephemeral nature and practice of mobile communication among my participants. My data currently consists of 21 individuals, 14 in Manila, 7 in LA, most of them college educated, middle-class professionals between 20 and 30 years of age. Participants in LA were a mix of 1.5 generation and second generation Filipinx Americans who reside in the city but grew up in different parts of the United States. I compiled semi-structured interviews in person and on mobile platforms over 15 months from January 2017 to January 2018. And thanks to this award, I plan to update and recruit my new study participants in the upcoming year to finalize a book proposal for a university press. Now, from this data, I analyzed practices and beliefs among my participants regarding how they value or demean digital representations of themselves, other queer Filipinos, and their targets for intimate connections. From these interviews, I examine how social categories, hierarchies of desirability, discourses of pleasure and frustration influence user action and ideas. These coincide also with my time spent in coffee shops around universities, in addition to restaurants and clubs popular among these queer men in both cities. I also spent time moving about Manila and Los Angeles on various forms of transportation, where I got a sense of the physical mobilities of people based on the type of vehicle they used and how people move around the city during different times of day and days of the week. I've published some findings from this study in various formats that include the Lambda Award-nominated anthology Q&A Voices from Queer Asia North America, an interdisciplinary online digital project visualizing the virus that showcased public writing on how SARS-CoV-2 and the COVID-19 pandemic visualize inequalities around the world. And this past year, as Dean Crane mentioned, my research was part of an edited volume focused on cultural and urban studies of Manila titled Beauty and Brutality, Manila and Its Global Discontents, a special section issue of the International Journal of Communication focused on queer cultures in digital Asia, and finally, a co-edited issue of Philippine Studies, Ethnographic and Historical Viewpoints on Science and Technology Studies in the Philippines. Now, my drag performance practice was born from memories of enacting the Miss Universe pageant in my living room, using bed sheets as evening gowns. A component of my drag practice takes Roman Catholic ritual sacraments and beliefs with memories from my youth as a foundational script and structure to multimedia presentations I perform. My drag style, look, and the stories I share enact memories from these histories of trauma and systemic violence as a queer immigrant Filipino juxtaposed with popular music and media. As Maria Arte or Maarte, I use drag to share and interrogate the traffic of women's bodies as commodities, as labor, and as imagined stereotypes. My research interest in drag performance has several unfolding projects. I'm currently developing a performance piece called Binyag, or Dousing with Water, into the Tagalog language. Based on the Roman Catholic ritual sacrament of baptism, this drag performance work explores the role of water in shaping the Philippine diaspora. I examine seafaring, the Manila galleon trade, global climate change, and US imperial violence as it manifests through the forces of water. Here are images from a workshop performance in past April where I was invited to perform at the 25th anniversary of Tuesday Night Cafe, one of the longest running free art series in Little Tokyo, downtown Los Angeles, and is the oldest Asian American mic series in the United States. I'm also completing a draft of a collaborative piece for an edited collection titled Glitter, Glamour, and Grit, Drag Celebrity and Queer Community. The submission comes from my role as community co-curator for a year-long exhibit at the Spurlock Museum of World Cultures. And the volume aims to intervene in critical conversations in drag studies from the perspective that drag can be a coalitional practice, promoting acts of resistance and creating community through performance. I see my research contributing to the vision of Filipinx studies, present and future. And I'm advancing the fields of Asian and Asian American studies, gender and sexuality studies, performance studies, and digital humanities that will support the mission and values of a polytechnic or poly-TEK institution through transnational scholarship and service. So thank you so much for honoring my work, and